In today's video, I'm going to be teaching you all the phrases, idioms, and expressions that you need to use when you go to the airport or when you're at the airport. So today's video will be more of a English at the airport video. So let's get started. The first expression that you need to know when you're at the airport is to book a flight. To book a flight. To book a flight. When you book a flight, you get a flight and you, let's say, buy the tickets. You book the tickets and you get the tickets to be able to fly to your destination. So you book a flight. An example, don't you want to book a flight to New York? Don't you like to book a flight to New York? Which means, don't you want to get a flight or buy a flight or purchase a flight or buy the tickets to New York? So don't you want to book the flight to New York? The second expression that you need a lot when you're at the airport is to miss a flight. To miss a flight. To miss a flight. When you miss a flight, you don't get to board the plane. You don't get to get on the plane. You don't get to fly on the plane. You don't get to use the ticket that you've booked or the flight that you've booked. So you lose the chance, the opportunity to get on the plane and fly to your destination. So you miss your flight. An example, I'm really sad I missed my flight to New York. I'm really sad I missed my flight to New York. I'm really sad I missed my flight to New York, which means I'm really sad. I lost the chance, the opportunity to board the plane, to get on my flight and, use the flight to New York. So I didn't get to fly to New York because I missed my flight to New York. The third expression that you're going to need is to catch a flight. 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 When you catch a flight, you get to use a flight. You get to board or get on a flight. Or you get to fly to your destination. Or you arrive at the airport in a timely manner and you get to get on the plane to fly to your destination. So that's the meaning of catching a flight. An example, you got to be in a hurry or else you won't catch your flight. You got to be in a hurry or else you won't catch your flight. You got to be in a hurry or else you won't catch your flight, which means you really need to be in a hurry. Otherwise, you won't be able to get on the plane. You won't be able to get to fly to your destination. You will miss your flight. So when you do not catch your flight, that means you've missed your flight. All right, now let's move on to the fourth expression, which is to board or get on a flight. To board or get on a flight. To board or get on a flight. When you board a flight or when you get on a flight, you go inside the plane and start flying to your destination. So to board or to get on a flight means to go inside the plane and to, let's say, start using your flight or to fly to your destination by getting on the plane or by going inside the plane. So the next time you're at the airport and you want to say that you want to go inside the plane, never say, I'm going to go inside the plane. You should say, I'm going to get on the plane or I'm going to board the plane. Actually, board is a more formal word than get on, but is very practical and common too. So you should say, I'm boarding my plane or I'm getting on my plane. An example, in 20 minutes, we'll be boarding the plane. In 20 minutes, we'll be boarding the plane. Or in 20 minutes, we'll be getting on the plane. In 20 minutes, we'll be getting on the plane. Which means in 20 minutes, we will go inside the plane. So in 20 minutes, we will be boarding the plane or getting on the plane. All right, the next expression is to onboard or get off a flight. To onboard or get off a flight. To onboard or get off a flight. When you onboard or get off a flight, you leave the plane and you get out of the plane and move towards the airport. Your flight has landed and you no longer want to be inside the plane, so you get out of the plane and move towards the airport. So you onboard or get off the flight. An example, when will she onboard her flight? Or when will she get off her flight? Which means, when will she leave the plane and come to the airport and come inside the airport? So when will she onboard the flight or get off the flight? All right, now let's move on to the next expression, which is, a flight is canceled. A flight is canceled. A flight is canceled. I think the expression itself clearly explains what it means. When a flight is canceled, it is canceled. You cannot use it. You will not be able to use your tickets. You will not be able to board or get on the plane, and you're not going to be able to use your flight. So when a flight is canceled, it means it can no longer be used, and you have to book another flight, or the agency needs to book you another flight. So a flight is canceled. An example: I couldn't fly to New York because my flight was canceled. I couldn't fly to New York because my flight was canceled. I couldn't fly to New York because my flight was canceled. All right, now let's move on to the next expression, which is a flight is delayed. A flight is delayed. A flight is delayed. You must have experienced this like a million times at the airport, that you got a flight at a certain time, you go to the airport, you arrive in a timely manner, you try to be as accurate as possible, and you try to get yourself to the airport with military precision and as accurately as possible to be able to catch your flight and to avoid missing the flight. But when you arrive at the airport, what happens is you realize that your flight is delayed, which means your flight is arriving, at a later time, or your flight is arriving later than the expected time, or your flight is arriving later than the expected time or the estimated time. So your flight is delayed. An example: man, I'm gonna be at the airport for another 2 hours because my flight is delayed. I'm gonna be at the airport for another 2 hours because my flight is delayed. I'm gonna be at the airport because my flight is delayed. Which means my flight will arrive 2 hours later than the expected time, the estimated time, and I'm gonna be waiting at the airport for another 2 hours to wait for my flight, to arrive, or to wait for the plane to land at the airport to be able to board it or get on it. So my flight is delayed. The next expression is your flight is diverted. Your flight is diverted. When a flight is diverted, it has to change its route and go somewhere else instead of the expected destination. So a flight is diverted. An example: I was supposed to go to New York, but the flight landed at the Los Angeles airport because it was diverted. Which means the flight was initially and primarily supposed to go to New York, but because of the change of plans, because of the, unexpected weather, or because of, terrible weather, it had to change its route and land at another airport. Land at the airport of Los Angeles. So my flight was diverted. All right, now let's move on to the next expression, which is to get stranded at the airport. 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 This has happened like a million times at most airports in the world, that the passengers get stranded at the airport. So when passengers get stranded at the airport, what happens is their flight has either been canceled or delayed, and they don't really know what they got to do at the airport, and they have to wait for their flight at the airport, or they have to wander around the airport doing nothing, just waiting for their flight to be rebooked, or to arrive, or to see what they got to do, or to see what the airport will do about their flight cancellation, or about their flight getting delayed. So to get stranded at the airport, I think it's the worst thing that can happen to a traveler while traveling, especially when you're so excited that you're, traveling somewhere, and you've made plans, for that trip of yours for, let's say, a couple of months beforehand, but your flight is canceled or delayed and you have to get stranded at the airport, and you don't really know what you got to do. You can neither get out of the airport nor board your plane or board the flight because your flight has been canceled or delayed and there's nothing available for you, and you got no choice but to, or you've been left with no choice but to, stay at the airport and wait for the airport officials or the people in charge of the airport and the agencies, airlines, to do something about your flight and to do something about your ticket. So you get stranded at the airport. An example, 20 flights got cancelled at the airport of New York and hundreds of passengers got stranded at the airport. 200 flights got cancelled at the airport of New York and hundreds of passengers got stranded at the airport. 200 flights got cancelled at the airport and hundreds of passengers got stranded at the airport, which means as a result of the flights of an airport getting cancelled all together at the same time, hundreds of passengers, thousands of passengers got stranded at the airport and didn't really know what to do and had to wander around the airport doing nothing and had to wait for the authorities of the airport or those in charge of the airport and their flights to do something about their tickets and their flights. All right, now let's move on to the next expression that you need to use when you're at the airport, which is to see someone off at the airport. To see someone off at the airport. To see someone off at the airport. When you see someone off at the airport, you go to the airport to say goodbye to someone. Let's say you got a friend flying somewhere, flying overseas, or leaving the country, leaving your city, and they're flying somewhere. So in order to say goodbye to them for the very last time, you go to the airport to see them off. So to see someone off at the airport. An example, don't you guys want to see me off at the airport? Don't you guys want to see me off at the airport? Which means, don't you guys want to come to the airport and say goodbye to me? I'm flying overseas. I will not be able to see you for quite a long period of time. So don't you guys want to see me off at the airport? One more example with this beautiful expression. It's really sad to see your loved ones off at the airport. It's really sad to see your loved ones off at the airport. It is really, really sad to see your loved ones off at the airport, which means it's really sad, heartbreaking to have to go to the airport to say goodbye to your loved ones leaving the country, flying abroad, flying overseas, or immigrating to other parts of the world. So to see someone off at the airport, such a beautiful expression, such a beautiful expression. Please use this expression the next time you want to go to the airport to say goodbye to a loved one of yours or one of your friends. Anyway, now let's move on to the next expression, which is a flight is bound for New York, London, Sydney, Melbourne. When a flight is bound for New York, London, Sydney, Melbourne, it is supposed to go to Sydney, New York, London, Melbourne. So when we say that a flight is bound for a certain place, it means the final destination of that flight is that specific place that we're mentioning, or the flight is supposed to fly to that specific place that we're mentioning. So a flight is bound for London, New York, Sydney, Melbourne, whatever. An example, we got a long flight ahead of us because our flight is bound for Sydney from London, which will take us around 30 hours to get there. So we got a long flight ahead of us because our flight is bound for Sydney from London, which means, we got a long flight and we got to be ready for it. It will take us around like 30 hours or something to be aboard, to get to Sydney. So we will have a pretty long flight ahead of us because our flight is bound for Sydney from London, and it'll be a 30-hour flight. We'll be 30 hours aboard, and we got to get ready for it. Alright guys, that's about it. That's about all. So in today's video, you learn some expressions that you can use when you're at the airport or when talking about flights. In the next video, I'm going to be talking more about planes, and I'm going to be teaching you all the idioms and expressions that you need to learn about planes, or when it comes to traveling somewhere by plane. Guys, don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel, like this video if you enjoyed watching it, which you did, and leave a comment down below by using one of the expressions I taught you in the video. I'll be back soon with another much better and more useful video. Wait for it. Have you ever seen the old houses and buildings around where you live or in the vicinity of where you live? Have you ever wondered what types of English adjectives you can use to describe these old buildings that are in a terrible condition? Well, I got the answer for you in today's video. What we will be doing is we're going to be working on 8 English adjectives that you can use to describe old houses and buildings that are in a terrible condition or are going to wreck and ruin or have gone to wreck and ruin. So let's get started. The first English adjective that you can use is decrepit, 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 decrepit. Yeah, you heard me right. The word, the adjective, decrepit, decrepit. When a building or a house is decrepit, it's in an awful condition, a very bad condition. Why? Because it's old, it's not been taken care of, it's not been maintained, and it's in a terrible condition. It's gone to wreck and ruin, and it's lying in ruins now. So, decrepit. An example. These decrepit buildings need to get either renovated or demolished. These decrepit buildings need to get either renovated or demolished. These decrepit buildings need to get either renovated or demolished, which means these decrepit buildings are in a terrible condition and need to be renovated, need to be demolished. These houses and buildings are very old and have not been taken care of or maintained properly or have not been used for a long period of time, which is why they're in a terrible condition and status. And they need to be repaired, they need to be renovated, and something needs to be done about them. So these decrepit buildings need to get either renovated or demolished. All right, let's proceed to the next word, the second adjective that you can use to say a building is very old, has not been taken care of or maintained well, and is in an awful condition, or is falling apart, or is about to fall apart, or is about to go to wreck and ruin, which is ramshackle, 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 ramshackle. When a building, a house, or a property is ramshackle, it's in a terrible state and condition because it's not been taken care of or maintained properly and well, and is in an awful condition, or needs to be repaired, needs to be renovated, or is very old and is just about to fall apart, or has gone to wreck and ruin. An example, the government needs to take action and do something about the ramshackle buildings of our city. The government needs to take action and do something about the ramshackle buildings of our city. The government needs to take action and do something about the ramshackle buildings of our city. The government needs to take action and do something about the ramshackle buildings of our city, which means the government needs to take action and do something about the old and, the not perfectly maintained houses and properties or buildings of our city. There are some buildings in our city which are pretty old, have not been taken care of or maintained well and properly, and are in a terrible and awful condition and need to be renovated and maintained or taken care of. So the government needs to take action or do something about these buildings. All right, let's move on to the third English adjective that you can use to say a building is very old, or is falling apart, or has already fallen apart, or is in ruins, or has gone to wreck and ruin as a result of not having been maintained well, which is the adjective rundown, 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 rundown. When a building is rundown, it is in a terrible condition. It's in a very bad state and condition because it's not been repaired, renovated, maintained, or taken care of properly or sufficiently, and it's just about to fall apart or has already fallen apart and been seriously damaged and destroyed. You must be excited to be renovating your rundown apartment. You must be excited to be renovating your rundown apartment. You must be excited to be renovating your rundown apartment. You must be excited to be renovating your rundown apartment. You must be excited to be renovating your rundown apartment, which means you got to be really excited now that you're renovating and repairing your old apartment or your apartment which is in a terrible condition, which has not been maintained or taken care of well and properly, and is in desperate need of renovation or maintenance. So you got to be very excited now that you're renovating your rundown apartment. All right, let's move on to the next English adjective that we can use to say a building is old, is in a bad condition, and needs to be maintained or repaired or renovated, which is the adjective derelict. Derelict, 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 derelict. When a building or a piece of land is derelict, it's not in a desirable condition or a pleasant condition because it's not been maintained or used for a long period of time and has fallen apart or has gone to wreck and ruin or, lies in ruins now. So, derelict. An example. The derelict buildings of our city need some serious renovation. The derelict buildings of our city need some serious renovation. The derelict buildings of our city need some serious renovation. The derelict buildings of our city need some serious renovation. The derelict buildings of our city need some serious renovation, which means the old and not perfectly maintained buildings of our city need to be renovated. So the derelict buildings of our city need some serious renovation. All right, let's move on to the next word, which is dilapidated. 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 The adjective dilapidated. 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 The adjective dilapidated. When a building or a house is dilapidated, it is in an awful condition. It is either old or in a terrible condition because it's not been maintained and taken care of properly or well, or has not been, renovated or repaired and needs some serious renovation and repair. No one likes to invest their money in your dilapidated house. Renovate it before selling it. No one likes to invest their money in your dilapidated house. Renovate it before selling it. No one likes to invest their money in your dilapidated house. Renovate it before selling it. Which means no one likes to invest their money in your old house, in your damaged, ruined, and destroyed house. You really need to renovate it before you want to sell it. All right, let's move on to the next word that we can use to say a building is old and is in a terrible and awful condition, which is the adjective tumble down. Tumble down, tumble down, tumble down. When a building is tumble down, it is old and is in a terrible condition and has just started to fall apart or is just about to fall apart. An example, the tumble down buildings of this neighborhood are vulnerable to earthquakes. The tumble down buildings of this neighborhood are vulnerable to earthquakes. The tumble-down buildings of this neighborhood are vulnerable to earthquakes. The tumble-down buildings of this neighborhood are vulnerable to earthquakes. The tumble-down buildings of this neighborhood are vulnerable to earthquakes, which means the old houses of this neighborhood have not been maintained and taken care of properly and well, and now are so weak that they're vulnerable to earthquakes. And if any sort of earthquake strikes, then they just start falling apart and, they will go to wreck and ruin. So the tumble-down buildings of this neighborhood are vulnerable to earthquakes. All right, let's move on to the next word, which is ruinous. The adjective ruinous. Ruinous. When a building is ruinous, it is either old or in a terrible condition and has been almost destroyed and demolished completely, or has almost fallen apart. An example, I saw your photo with the ruinous school behind you. I saw your photo with the ruinous school behind you. I saw your photo with the ruinous school behind you. Which means I saw your photo with the demolished and destroyed building behind you, with the old and demolished building behind you, or with the ruined school behind you. All right, let's move on to the expression that we can use to say a building is old, a building has not been maintained and taken care of well, and has almost fallen apart, or is just about to fall apart, and long story short, is in a terrible condition, which is to be in disrepair, to be in disrepair, to be in disrepair, to be in disrepair, to be in disrepair. When a building, a road, a property is in disrepair, it's in an awful condition because it's not been used for a long period of time and it's just about to fall apart, or it has started falling apart, or it has gone to wreck and ruin, or it is just about to go to wreck and ruin. So to be in disrepair. An example: if you don't maintain your house on a regular basis, it will be in disrepair soon. If you don't maintain your house on a regular basis, it will be in disrepair soon. If you do not maintain your house on a regular basis, it will be in disrepair soon. Which means if you do not take care of your house or maintain your house on a regular basis, it will start falling apart, or it will start going to wreck and ruin. Alright guys, that's about all. In today's video, you learned 8 English adjectives that you can use to say a building is old, a house is old, or has fallen apart because of being in a bad condition, or because of not being maintained or taken care of well. What I want you to do is like this video if you enjoyed watching it, which you did. Subscribe to my YouTube channel, to your YouTube channel, and leave a comment down below as well. I'll be back soon with another video. In today's video, I brought you 5 English adjectives that you can use to say someone is very angry. So instead of saying very angry, or instead of repeating very angry all the time, you can use these 5 English adjectives. Are you ready? Of course you are, so let's get started. So the first English adjective that we can use to say that someone is very angry is the word furious. 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 When someone is furious, they're very angry. So instead of repeating the term very angry all the time, like I'm very angry, she's very angry, they're very angry, very angry, very angry, instead of repeating very before the adjective angry, you can use the word furious. An example: she's still furious about the car accident. She's still furious about the car accident. She's still furious about the car accident. She's still furious about the car accident, which means she's very angry about the car accident. She's extremely angry about the car accident. But this adjective enables us to avoid repeating the word very before the adjective angry. So instead of very angry, we can say furious. She's still furious about the accident. All right, let's move on to the second adjective of today's video that we can use to say someone is very angry, which is the word irate. 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 The adjective irate. 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 When someone is irate, they're very angry. They're furious. So instead of repeating very before the adjective angry, you can simply say irate. Irate, right? It's incredible. Irate. Irate. It's wonderful, guys, right? It's fantastic that instead of repeating very before angry to say someone is very angry, very angry, very angry, we can use the adjective irate, which is similar to the previous one that we just talked about, furious. Irate. Irate. An example: did you talk to your irate customers? 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 Which means, did you talk to your customers that were very angry or that were extremely angry? Did you talk to your irate customers? All right, let's move on to the third adjective of today's video to say someone is very angry, which is the word livid. Livid. The adjective livid. livid. Instead of repeating very before the adjective angry, we can say someone is livid, as simply as this. It's wonderful, it's amazing, guys. Instead of having to repeat very before angry, and instead of, having to say someone is very angry, very angry, very angry, very angry, we can simply use the adjective livid and say someone is livid, which means someone is very angry. An example, don't let anything make you feel livid. Relax and calm down. Don't let anything make you feel livid. Relax and calm down. Don't let anything make you feel livid. Relax and calm down. Do not let anything make you feel livid. Relax and calm down, which means don't let anyone or anything make you feel very angry or extremely angry. It's not worth it. Nothing in the world is worth your anger, is worth your feeling of anger. So don't let anyone or anything make you feel livid. Relax, calm down, take a deep breath, keep your cool, and relax. Don't let anything make you feel livid. Relax and calm down. Be in control of yourself. Be in command of yourself. And don't let anything make you feel very angry. Nothing is worth your feelings of anger and anxiety. Alright guys, now let's move on to the fourth English adjective of today's video to emphasize that someone is very angry, which is the word enraged. 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 When someone is enraged, they're very angry, they're extremely angry. So instead of having to repeat very before the word angry, and instead of having to say very angry, very angry, very angry, we can simply use this word and say someone is enraged and sound more advanced and sound more like native speakers. I'm not saying that native speakers don't say very angry, but I'm saying native speakers do not repeat very before every adjective. Instead of repeating very angry over and over and all over again, you can simply say someone is furious, someone is livid, someone is irate, or someone is enraged. So the adjective enraged. Let me give you an example. She feels absolutely enraged. Don't call her. 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 Which means she feels very angry, extremely angry. You better not call her. We highly recommend that you should not call her, especially at this moment, because it's not the right time to call her. She's enraged, she's very angry, and she may not be in command of herself. She may not be able to control her feelings, so you'll be better off not calling her now. She's enraged. Alright guys, now let's move on to the fifth English adjective of today's video, and the last English adjective of today's video to emphasize that someone is very angry without having to repeat very before the word angry, which is the adjective incest. 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 The adjective incest. Incest. The adjective incest. 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 Yeah, you heard me right. Repeat after me. What did I say? Yeah, excellent. Incest. Incest. When someone is incest, they're very angry. So instead of repeating very before angry again and again and all over again, you can simply say someone is incest. Talk to me. What makes you feel incest at my behavior? Talk to me. What makes you feel incest at my behavior? Talk to me. What makes you feel incest at my behavior? Talk to me. What makes you feel incest at my behavior? Talk to me. What makes you feel incest at my behavior? Which means, please talk to me. Express your feelings to me. Share your feelings and thoughts with me. Tell me how you feel and put your feelings into words and talk to me and tell me how you feel. Tell me what makes you very angry with me. Or tell me what makes you very, very angry about my behavior. So talk to me. what makes you feel incensed at my behavior? We usually say you feel incensed at something, right? So to feel incensed at something. The preposition following the adjective incensed is at. You are incensed at something. So talk to me. What makes you feel incensed at my behavior? Alright guys, that's about all. In today's video, you learned 5 English adjectives that you can use and take full advantage of to say someone is very angry without having to repeat very before angry, or without having to say very angry, very angry, very angry again and again and all over again. So let's review them together. The first word was furious. The second word was irate. The third word was livid. The fourth word was enraged. And the fifth word that we just reviewed together was livid. The word livid. Alright, what I want you to do now is subscribe to your YouTube channel. This is not just mine, but yours as well. Like this video if you enjoyed watching it, which you absolutely and undeniably did. And leave a comment down below. I'll be back soon with another video.